Hey there guys, it's me Chase. I'm doing a trip review or update, and I'm doing it fairly late at night because we have to get up early in the morning because tomorrow is the big day. As I'm recording this, it is Friday evening, and yeah, tomorrow is the day. It's general conference, and it's gonna get crazy. It's gonna get wild. So hoping, just pray for us, just for safety and all that stuff. But that's the big one. So for today, I don't want to make a video as long as I did the last one. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to make a few notable mentions. I talked to about 6-7 people in total today at MTC. There was a particular group of 3 sister missionaries that I talked to. Well, they actually hadn't gone on a mission yet, from what I understand, but they were getting ready to. And I managed to get them to stop to talk to me, and started talking about who God was. Of course, that's kind of where I like to go. I do think that is the number one key issue. So, and I got a lot of standard replies whenever I'd raise Isaiah 43:10, Isaiah 44:6. A lot of the standard replies, which don't really address what I'm saying. They just kind of take a very roundabout way to try and get to, well, here's what we believe. And I've already kind of stated what they believe, and that's the whole point. It's like, I know what you believe. My problem is, I think what you believe is an error, and serious error, not the kind of error we can do with secondary issues, like when we talk to our, in terms of eschatology, we talk to our premillennial friends or postmillennial, whatever, and think that they're in error about the way they're interpreting a particular prophecy or text. They're dealing with eschatology. That's an error that is acceptable within the realm of what salvation is. But when it comes to the nature of God, that's not something you can just go, well, we can disagree on that, but we're both worshiping the same God. No, that doesn't work for that one. That is as was noted today with me and talking with somebody who I'll mention in a moment, that is a big issue, a key issue. That's one of the big ones, not one of the small issues. That is big. That is in fact the biggest issue. We got into went down a couple of different roads. We went down some of the translation issue stuff. They raised, we believe the, 8th article of faith from the Latter-day Saints view. They have what's called the 8th article of faith, which says we believe the Bible. So insofar as it's translated correctly, which basically is a roundabout way of saying we believe the Bible is corrupt in the sense that it's missing precious truths and stuff like that. And the Book of Mormon exists to fix that kind of stuff. Never had anybody actually give me specifics on how the Book of Mormon does that, but that's the claim. Honestly, you ask me for specifics on this or that issue, I can tell you what it is. I had these sister missionaries ask me a lot of questions, and it was interesting to note, and this isn't intended to brag, but it's interesting to note that once they asked me the questions, I was immediately able to answer the question, and was able to then turn it right back around on them, and then ask them questions, and they all would kind of look at each other like, do you know it better than me? That's kind of the way it sort of turned out. But anyways, so that was one of the conversations among many of that I had at MTC. The most significant one I had, it was an absolutely pleasant surprise. I didn't think that it was gonna happen because, so last year we went to what Scott has this friend, he calls him Provo Joe. because this guy's name is Joe, and he lives in Provo, and he's a Latter-day Saint. He's got a big family, and Provo Joe last time invited us to his house for dinner, and so we came. I didn't know what to expect. I thought this is going to be weird, but okay, and I'm not in charge of the mission or anything like that, so I just go where they say we're gonna go. So we went, and I was just enjoying a nice cheeseburger because Joe makes some incredible cheeseburgers. And then that's where I met a young girl named Ashley, and she's a very smart young lady, and just very smart. And we had a great conversation, and I did not expect to have that kind of a conversation with her at all. I was sitting there, she was sitting right next to me, and it was really awkward, and I was just kind of like, well, here we go, and struck up a conversation with her, and I talked to her the entire time, and we had a great conversation. We did talk about some of our differences, but we had a great conversation nevertheless. And then, I left with the team, and that was goodbye. And then, so this time we went back to Provo Joe's house for dinner again. I honestly did not think that Ashley was going to be there again. I just thought, because she was, in our last conversation, she's clearly somebody who travels a lot and just is all over the place. She loves to travel. She loves to hike. She loves to do all kinds of things. Way more things than I have ever done. So I was just figured, she's most likely going to be off somewhere. Sure enough, there she was. She was at the house. So I was like, well, hey, what's up? It's good seeing you again, So we just had a little quick catch-up moment. But I thought, to myself, it's great seeing her again, but is the Lord really going to give me another evening to have a chat with her? I don't know. That seems a little far-fetched. So we greeted, and then we parted ways again. I ended up talking to her friend Jake. He's a young guy too, 18 years old. It's about the same age as her. I think they are the same age, actually. Anyways, and Jake's a really cool kid. Him and I were talking and talking and talking. He's got a great way to ask questions, and really keep a conversation engaged. And so him and I were just talking, and we started talking about God and all kinds of different things. And then, we sat down after we finally got some food. We sat down to eat and to continue talking. And he wanted to know about our differences. And again, I was not planning on getting into the subjects. I was just like, we're just here to eat and just enjoy each other's company and just talk and stuff like that. So that's just what I was going to do. But he asked me, so what do you think are our major differences? So I thought to myself, I was like, okay, well, you asked, so we'll go there. And it was a respectful conversation. Don't get me wrong. We kept it very cordial, very respectful. I'm glad that they did not see any of my criticisms of their worldview as being hateful or spiteful or anything like that. I never wanted anybody to see that's what I'm doing. But there are some worldviews I don't respect in any way, shape, or form, though. But I gotta say that. Anyways, but and then so as we sat down, Ashley is like sitting at another table, and she's looking totally lost, just bored out of her mind of everything that's happening. So when Jake and I sat down, she saw us sit down, and she gets up, and then she walks over to sit down right next to us, and she goes, "I want to join this conversation." I thought to myself right there, it's like, I think Ashley, it's like she wants to pick up where we left off. Like she really wants to talk. It seems like she really enjoyed our conversation last time. I really enjoyed our conversation too. So maybe I am going to get a chance to pick up where I left off with her. So that's great. Awesome. So we started going into, again, who God was, the nature of God. I brought up Isaiah 43:10, Isaiah 44:6, where and I contrasted that with what the church teaches, Latter-day Saint Church, what they teach about God. And I was showing that there's a clear conflict between what the Bible says and what the church teaches. So again, I brought up Isaiah 43:10. Before me was no God formed, neither shall there be any God after me. Now, Ashley, as soon as I said that, Ashley immediately pulled her phone out and started looking for that passage in her phone, brought it up, and then she read it, and then said, well, it doesn't actually say that. It just says, besides me, there's no Savior. And I went, hold on, which verse is that? And she was like, well, verse 11. I said, no, well, we'll go back one verse. It's verse 10. I was talking about verse 10. So then she read that one out loud, and that was it. And she paused for a moment, because she's thinking. And I was just thinking to myself as I was watching her think about what to say to that. This is a kid who cares about truth. Most of the people I've talked to on this trip, most of the Latter-day Saints I've talked to, postmodern, they have this view of, well, we can't truly know. It's just what's good to you and all that kind of stuff like that. And the Book of Mormon is good for me, and it doesn't matter if there's contradictions between it and the Bible. It's just it is just how it makes me feel, and the experience and the testimony that God has put into my heart. Now, Ashley kind of does a little bit of that, but not nearly as much as these just super progressive postmodern Latter-day Saints that I've been encountering all week long, literally all week long. Ashley very clearly, and so does Jake, they both very clearly are interested in truth. And I take that as a positive. Talking to the postmodern person, that's somebody who simply doesn't care what truth is. It's not that they don't think that there is one. They don't care about it. All they care about is being as comfortable as they possibly can. And if they're comfortable in sinfulness and in idolatry and wickedness, they don't care. They like it. They're cool with it. They don't care about contradictions. They don't care if it's going to destroy them. All they care about is what makes them feel good. It's all that matters to them. But I don't see that being the case with Ashley and Jake. They seem very interested in truth. I know that much for Ashley. She's very conservative. I would say she's significantly conservative. She told me she was mostly conservative, but I think she's pretty conservative. She's loves to debate. Again, very smart. She's very opinionated. She's got strong beliefs, and it was clear to me because when I quote the passage, she immediately brings it up because she wants to know the truth about it. Most of the time when I quote that to Latter-day Saints, they don't try and go, well, I gotta look that up real quick. I gotta make sure that was they don't have any concern about whether that's in the text or not. Ashley was concerned about whether it was in the text or not, and then there it was. And that doesn't mean that all is well. She tried to give an answer for what it was saying, and she said things like, well, this was for that present day, and it was important for that present day time, which I when I heard her say that, I was like, I don't know why that's really important to mention. And then she said, well, it also was saying, well, he's not talking about exaltation here. And I was like, well, I wasn't saying that it was. That's not what I was implying. What I'm implying is that Joseph Smith is saying that there are an infinite amount of gods in existence. And Isaiah 43:10 says, God says, there was no God formed before me, neither shall there be any God after me. And so, Jake eventually left and talked to one of our guys, Jeremy, and Jeremy did a great job in pressing Jake on the issues and the credibility of Joseph Smith and all the problems with Joseph Smith in his life. So Jeremy did a great job with that. But I continued to talk to Ashley, and sometimes I'm disappointed in myself because I didn't press too hard. And maybe that's a little selfish on my part, because I really like to talk to Ashley, and there's a part of it like I don't want to ruin our friendship. But in some sense that's not a good motivation for me. Like I need to be more. Like, this might ruin our friendship, but if it gets her to understand the truth, then that's what I need to do. Like I need to do that more often. But I am still, I know I gave her a lot to think about because, and again, we picked up kind of where we left off last time, where I was giving her things to think about, things to consider, and I kind of just put a little bit more on there this time around. When I raised that passage to her, I brought it up again later in our conversation because she was saying, Christ is our rock, and all that stuff, and he's the most important thing, more important than anything, which I agree with. But again, the issue is, who is he though? And if you say that he is a God, I have to say, you and I do not have the same Jesus. And I don't believe you have the Jesus of the Bible. And I explained the Trinity to her. See, and one of the issues here is because, once again, when I would raise those passages in Isaiah, the answers I get are, well, we believe that, like the New Testament teaches that there are three gods, of this world. And my issue with that is, see, what I'm trying to do, as I explained numerous times in our conversation, is I'm taking the Old Testament and the New Testament, putting them together. That's what I'm doing. And so when I bring to you Isaiah 43:10, and your answer is, but the New Testament says this, you are attempting to ignore and not have to deal with Isaiah 43:10 because of this over here. That doesn't deal with what I just quoted to you. It still says what it says. Just because you go to the New Testament to try and prove three gods of this world doesn't suddenly make Isaiah 43:10 go away. And so, some of the things that I would get as I got today, not just, I got it all day basically, that, well, when it talks about God, it's talking about God in the sense of like, there are the three beings have a united purpose or, title, and that is God. And I'm in my head, I'm just thinking, where is any of that in the text? It's nowhere. There's no hint of it in the text at all. The verbs and the sentence formations are in singular form. God says, I am, not we are. I am. In Isaiah 44:6, he says, I am the first and the last. Besides me, not besides us, there are no gods. Besides me, there is no God. All of that is singular. It's singular through and through and through. It is clear here that there is one speaking here. Now, I would say that there are three as one speaking, but as one God, only one God. And again, I was explaining the Trinity to them and all these things, and how we get to the doctrine of the Trinity, all the stuff I was explaining to them. But so it does, I gotta be honest, it does get a little frustrating because I care about both of these young people. And I want them to just see it. Like, just see it. There it is, right there. But the LDS lenses just don't allow it to happen. And I actually got to a point in the conversation where Ashley and I were talking about how traditions can get in the way of us seeing what's real and what isn't. And I was going through some things about that. And then I kind of brought it back around to our discussion of Isaiah 43:10, because I would quote the passage to her, and she would, and just being very honest, she was struggling to try to think of a way to explain it that would fit the LDS perspective. And if you're doing that, at the very least, it means that there is a conflict here. At the very least. But she would tell me, I don't really have the answers, but that's okay. I don't need to know all the answers. And in my head, I'm thinking, but Ashley, you and I both agreed with Joseph Smith that the first principle of the gospel is the new character, nature of God. This is about that. And now you're saying you don't really need to know what the first principle of the gospel is. You don't need to know for sure about it. That's the big issue here. This is the big issue. Who is God? Who is the God that I worship? And if we get that wrong, we get everything wrong. So, but that's the big issue. And so I finally said to Ashley, this was the last thing I told myself, this is going to be the last thing I'm going to say to Ashley here tonight that is in regard to these deeper subjects. And then after that, let's just have some nice chats, whatever. I eventually asked Ashley, so, when I read Isaiah 43:10, there it is. It's right there. I read it and I accept it. That's it. That's what it says. And then I asked her, because again, she can't really do that. And the reason why she can't is because she's got certain traditions that don't allow her to see it. So I asked her, I said, do you think that may be one of the reasons why you're struggling, or you really can't, you're having a difficult time explaining this? Could it possibly be because of the LDS background stuff that you carry with you? You think it could be that? I don't remember what exactly her answer is, but she kind of seemed to consider that was a possibility. But she just went back again to, Christ is my rock, and again, that's all great and all, but the issue is, which Christ? Christ, Lucifer's brother, or Christ who is the one true God who created Lucifer? Those aren't the same Christs. They aren't. And I would contend with all of my heart that, yes, Ashley and Jake, passionate about what they believe, but being passionate doesn't make it right. It's, at the end of the day, my feelings and what I want to be true cannot be sufficient. And I bring these things up not because I'm trying to tear down someone's faith, but because I really believe that kind of thinking, like when I look into Ashley's eyes, I see somebody. When she told me, like I'm certain about this, I look in her eyes and I think, I don't see certainty. I see somebody who is struggling to put these together and is telling themselves that it's okay. But I think she knows, I think Ashley knows, deep down, it's not okay. And I don't want Ashley to come to the end of the road and come face to face with God and realize she had the wrong one the whole time. I don't say that in malice or anything like that. I say that I want to share the same faith as Ashley does and as Jake does. The simple fact is we can't, because we have two different Jesuses. That's just a simple fact. And the other simple fact is that Isaiah 43:10, Isaiah 44:6, they say what they say. And look, the other thing here is, when, as it was explained to me earlier today in conversations with the same subject, well, what that means is, there's only one God of this world. Where is that in the text? Where is that in the text? It's not in the text. You're inserting that into the text in order for it to fit with everything else that you believe. And I gotta say, look, I don't want to be playing around with God's word like that, to be making it say something that it's not saying. I know we all sort of do that in some degree or whatever, but try to avoid doing that as much as we possibly can. And I actually I was talking to some of the sister missionaries today. They were saying, I forgot what they were saying, but I mentioned to them. So I've read in Alma 11, verse 44, it actually says, I'm paraphrasing, but, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, which are one eternal God. It says that. And one of the girls did kind of like what Ashley does. She was like she wanted to see that. I was like, yeah, look it up. You can look it up. It's there. And she read it, and then her answer to that was, well, what that's actually meaning is they're one in purpose, like one God in purpose. And so I as kindly and as gently as I possibly could, I said, so see, the issue here is, I just read the text. Well, and I paraphrased it, but I just basically read it. That's what it says. You added a word to it, though. Purpose. They're one in purpose. One of us just read the text as it was, and the other one added a word to it, which is, by the way, your own text. So, why is it that I'm just reading it? So who's the one who has to change what it says in order to make it say something, and who's the one who can just read it for what it says? So, for example, and I know this is an extreme example, but it's to make a point. What if somebody came and told you, Hitler wasn't such a bad guy at all. He had some great ideas, and you go, have you read Mein Kampf? And they say, yes, I have. It's like, so when he talks about, the Jews and all the problems with the Jews and that they're the big problem in the world, it doesn't bother you at all? And then that person says, well, see, what Hitler really means was this. And they go on this long thing about justifying everything, doing everything they can do to justify Hitler's anger and racism towards the Jews, or his anti-Semitism. That would be quite silly, because what you do when you read a book is you read it in its plain language as the author intended it to be read. And when you do that, it is very patently clear, when we do that with the Bible, that it is patently clear that the Bible teaches that there is only one God, and yet it identifies three persons, which we see in the New Testament, as the one God. How we can make sense of that, we can't, because God is above his creation. He exists in a dimension beyond ours that we can even begin to fathom. And that's okay, because that shows how infinitely amazing he is. He's far more than human, because he isn't human. He invented humanity. But and then the same thing when I come to the Book of Mormon. And so why is it that the Book of Mormon does that? Well, because Joseph Smith, when he wrote the Book of Mormon, was actually a monotheist. He was. In that same chapter, by the way, go up a little bit more in that same chapter, and you got Zeezrom and Amulek having a conversation. I think it was Amulek asking Zeezrom about, is there more than one God? And Zeezrom was like, or is there, no, Amulek asks, is there a true living God? And Zeezrom says yes. And Amulek asks, is there more than one living God, one God? And Zeezrom's plain and flat answer is no, there is not. And then, of course, again, the answer might be, the reply might be, there's a spider up there, so I'm watching him. The reply might be, well, what he means is there's not a God of this, more than one God of this world, which kind of doesn't, again, has a problem because there actually are three. And then, of course, the issue comes, okay, so they say there's three gods of this world. Well, didn't you say there was one God? And when it says one God, is there one purpose? Now there's three? So what do you mean when you're using the term God? Like, what? It seems like you're using it whenever it fits your certain needs. But anyways, so but the answer to that, though, when they say, well, what he means is that there's only one God of this world. No. The specific question was from Amulek was, is there a true and living God? In other words, he's asking if there is a God in existence that is a living God. And Zeezrom says, yes. And so what he's saying is there is a true and living God, and there are no others. That's what he's saying. So anyways, keep Ashley in prayer, please. Keep Jake in prayer. I really care about these two, and just, I want them to come to the truth. I want them to come to the true faith. And I understand, even though I don't understand, the culture that they grew up in with the prophets and all that stuff. And there's issues with all that too. But my hope and my prayer is that they come to understand that, and not just them, but their entire families. I want to see their whole family come to recognize, I want to worship the God of Isaiah chapter 40 through 48. That's the God I want to worship. So anyways, I gotta go, guys. I gotta go to bed. This has been way too long. Sole Deo Gloria. God bless. Bye.